You're looking at a map of a small inner-city section of Sacramento, California. In this area are two public housing projects, New Helvetia and River Oaks, commonly referred to as CV Circle. The following documentary is based on a community-oriented policing project of the Sacramento Police Department. The program focuses on two neighborhood police officers assigned to these neighborhoods through a grant funded by the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency.
We got the name Mad Hatters because when we first got out into the development, we wore our hats so that the people out here could identify with us, and when they saw us walking around their community with the cops with the hats on, they would know that we were their police. Soon, as we started to arrest several drug dealers, a lot of the lookouts, when they were looking for police, would see the police with his hats, and they would start calling hats to warn all their friends. And then the name finally evolved into the Mad Hatters.
The Mad Hatters are community-oriented police, neighborhood cops. We're out here using some new principles and some new ways of doing police work along with the old. The four elements of community-oriented policing are physical decentralization, which means they gave us an office right in the projects we call Fort Apache. Organizational decentralization, meaning we don't report to a sergeant, we report to the lieutenant who gives us the freedom to do what we need to do. Community mobilization, which means we're setting up a series of partnerships. And problem-oriented policing, which involves innovative solutions to typical old-fashioned problems.
What is it like in Sacramento's inner-city neighborhoods, New Helvetia and CV Circle, before the Mad Hatters begin patrolling? By the summer of '91, you could pick a month or pick a neighborhood, and it would sound pretty much like this. September 1990, a West Sacramento man dies after severe beating by drug dealers when he tries to collect money. March 23, 1991, 28-year-old Charles Taylor is shot in the face by a 15-year-old boy near 5th and CV Circle after being chased down the street. May 29, 1991, Darrell Wash, 30, is fatally shot trying to drive away from a CV Circle parking lot after a drug-related argument. CV Circle again, July 6, 1991. An innocent boy is run down and killed by a suspect fleeing officers in a pursuit. One day later, a teenager is shot in the chest and another is hit in the arm during a drive-by shooting. And on July 31, 1991, 21-year-old Marcus Reese knocks on the door of a wrong apartment. He leaves after an argument only to return firing a pistol. The resident returns fire, killing Reese with a shot in the neck.
When me and my partner, Officer Bickle, started here June last summer, this place was horrible. There was gang bulletins coming out weekly on gang and crip wars right here on this corner, trying to take over the drug trade and threatening cops if they tried to stop them. Almost on every corner you could see here, there was some kind of rock cocaine dealer or lookout. There was home invasions where people were actually getting kicked out of their apartment for 1-2 days at a time. Did you get donuts today?
Cookies.
Okay, I like cookies. They were being kicked out of their house for 1 or 2 days at a time so dope dealers can go and sell their rock cocaine. It was just a mess. People were in fear to come out of their house. Children weren't able to play outside and have to come in after dark. It's not a way that anybody wants to live. So our first few months out here was almost all enforcement, primarily rock cocaine. One of the several large narcotic arrests we had was 2 individuals which had been dealing out here and were notorious for several years. When we finally arrested them, it was their first arrest. Each of the individuals had approximately $1,500. We seized over an ounce of rock cocaine, 2 Cadillacs, a Cherokee Jeep, and also a shotgun as well. Interesting note to this case is they were ordered to stay away from the area by probation, so they cannot deal drugs in this area once they're released from jail. Rock cocaine sales was so widespread that we chased one subject through his door who had a gun, tackled him in the hallway, and as we walked into his room, we found in plain view, in pockets in a closet, approximately $2,500 in cash bulging from the pockets, as well as about 1.5 ounces of rock cocaine. Also seized was a gun, his car, and various stereo equipment, which was proceeds of drug profits. But it wasn't until we made a lot of these large arrests that the community started to see a little improvement. They started to work with us a little bit. They started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The River Oaks and New Helvetia areas are culturally rich with several different nationalities in the area. Just north of CV Circle is a large area where the Vietnamese, Hmong, Min, and Chinese have a vegetable garden. It was one day last summer that some of the gardeners were shot by kids with BB guns. Normally the Asian community does not like to call the police, but because they identify with us wearing the hats when we ride through the community, and they felt comfortable with us being there, they approached us about the problem. After several days of talking with the people in the neighborhood, we finally identified the kids who were responsible. Normally, a district officer would just clear the call and eventually send the kids on their way. But we took this call a step further in looking for the long-term solution. We went to the children responsible and held a counseling session with them. We also talked to their parents and discussed the ramifications of shooting BB guns at people. We also talked to them about what happens when they go to juvenile hall, and we told them that quite possibly they and their family could be evicted if they were arrested for shooting a BB gun at people. Because we showed patience with the kids in handling the case, and because we did not arrest them, the Asian community seems to be more open to us, and I think they have more respect for what we're trying to do out here.
This is River Oaks in April of 1993. At a little under 400 units, it's about half of our project area. It's a good example of the use of problem-oriented policing techniques. Here you now see speed bumps instead of gangsters profiling and speeding around the complex, showing off, parking. Soon, with the approval of the resident council, this will be a one-way circle or a one-way street. Up here on the right, you see no parking at any time. That's now in place of drug dealers, narcotic dealers that used to use abandoned cars, both to store their dope and their guns, and who would loiter all day by the cars with a wrench in their hand. Around here, where residents used to be afraid to go and where there was no parking, we now have new lighting and assigned permit parking. And an empowered resident council has retained their own private towing firm to tow away violators. This is Camellia Commons, a private complex just to the south. It's not technically part of our project area as it's not owned by the Housing Authority. However, because it was adversely impacting our project, because of the bad narcotic problem they have here, we became real involved. And we're down here quite a bit. Recently, because the management was under fire from both the City Council, resident groups, and the Sacramento Police Department, not to mention the Housing Authority, they agreed to evict a lot of the apartments that were responsible for most of the narcotics traffic and where we had effected narcotics arrests. The problem was so extensive and well documented that they ended up vacating approximately 60 units in a complex that's not much bigger than maybe 90 or 100. Because of the large number of vacancies, they had to go down to Stockton, and they moved in a Hmong tribe or extended family of about 60. Overnight, we have new culture with almost a new set of problems, although they're very slight in comparison. You can see that it's cleaned up. Now, instead of worrying about drive-by shootings, we have problems like parking on the lawn. It's a refreshing change. Interestingly, the private management complex and firm now reports that they're collecting more rent than they were before. This is New Helvetia. At a little over 300 units, it represents the remainder of our project area. Today, it's a beautiful physical plant, particularly without the graffiti on the walls. And without the 29th Street Crips controlling the narcotics sales up and down this street, Kit Carson, home of Fort Apache, was the worst street. And in fact, on this 3-block stretch, even with a brand new police department on the street and a squad car parked on it, it was responsible, just these 3 blocks, for 60 calls for service in most of the summer months last year. Now, there's less than half that, certainly, perhaps as low as 15. The composition is roughly 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Be a third black, a third Asian, and a third white and Hispanic. Want a race?
Nah.
How you doing? You gonna play basketball later?
Yeah.
All right.
See you later, Bickle.
Bye-bye. As part of the cleanup and our partnership with the Housing Authority, they're doing a complete renovation of each unit, a section at a time. Each unit's going to get new paint, new complete central heat and air, a general facelift, removal of lead. Hey, what do you mean, hey cop? How you doing? Pardon me? Yeah? See you later.
One area of concern remaining for the Mad Hatters is the effect the weekly Sacramento cruise has on their beat. Every Sunday, curious teenagers, adults, gangbangers, wannabes, and a smattering of really bad people converge on Miller Park. They show up to see, be seen, and hang out. For most, it's the social event of the week. 2,000 to 3,000 people jam their way onto this razor-thin peninsula of land next to the Sacramento River. They arrive in over 1,000 well-maintained classic and muscle cars that make statements by themselves.
Hey, happy Easter. We got those Central boys, and they're about the only set here.
Most will hang out here until dusk when officers push them out to close the park. Often fights or the sound of gunshots force an early closing. And the potential for that kind of trouble spilling over into nearby New Helvetia and Seavey Circle concerns officers Diekman and Bickle. At dusk, the cruise migrates to Broadway and begins a slow bumper-to-bumper snail's pace eastward, at one point passing New Helvetia. The air is always electric with danger. Trouble may be only a car length away. Before it's over each week, about 100 traffic citations are written, 10 to 15 vehicles are towed, 3 or 4 firearms are turned up, and there's usually a drug bust or two. Each week, about 20 officers have to be there just to keep the lid on. And each week, the bite on taxpayer wallets is about $3,000.
With the enforcement at first, a lot of the adults earlier didn't warm up to us, so we started playing with the kids. When they saw us playing basketball with the kids. They saw us spending time with them, trying to counsel them. And the parents of these children saw that and they said, well, God, these guys aren't just another program. They're not going away. You live in Camellia Commons? Where do you live? Huh? Where do you live? Where at? In Seavey Circle?
I do.
You do? Where do you live in Seavey Circle?
Across the street.
What's the address?
51.
You like Seavey Circle?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on, huh? Well, hello there. Where's your brother at?
In class.
You still in class? Is he on detention?
No. You guys got close.
You like our toys?
Yeah, I like it.
We have fun toys, huh?
I want to be a cop.
You want to be a cop? Well, then you'll get toys too.
Pick the gun.
You want the gun? What would you do with the gun? Would you protect the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Would you? Okay, good. Those are some pretty... The new program we're working on now is called the V-Team, or Victory. It's short for New Helvetia and CV Circle. It's part of a drug elimination grant that my partner drafted. I'll let him tell you about it.
Basically, we're working with 30 to 35 at-risk youth who live in the projects here. And basically, the program is divided into two components. One being strengthening the mind, and the other being strengthening the body.
Well, the strengthening of the body part is a workout program. We're doing basketball, flexibility training, speed and agility, and we're also trying to promote teamwork while we're doing it. Twice a week we have practice, the first hour of which is this workout program.
Try that again. Team set? Hit it.
Very good, very good. Single file now, single file.
Run! Oh, run!
You're flying. That's a monkey roll. Keep going, guys.
Roll,
Your turn.
jump, roll,
You jump.
jump, roll, jump,
Go ahead.
roll.
This time, stay tight.
All right, that's getting a little better.
Okay. Right. Hit. Good. Doubles. That looks good. Doubles to the left. Are you ready?
To the left.
Left. Good.
Very
now we're
good.
going to put the first part together with the second part, and you guys are going to be a team. You're going to be functioning together. You're going to be learning about reaction time, and you're going to be conditioning your mind, because if you don't think, you'll be in the wrong place. Everybody face me.
The second hour is strengthening the mind. What we're trying to do here is to encourage kids to make the right choices, follow the rules, and do their homework from school. We meet all the kids here at Fort Apache. They bring their homework, and we go upstairs, pass out sodas, and study for an hour. We tutor them, we help them with their problems, and make sure they understand what they are doing. Your dog is naughty. Bye.
You're sounding it out good. Keep sounding it out. What sound does the first part make?
Rest.
Good.
What's 3 minus 2?
3 minus 2 is 1.
Right, so then you go on to the next one. What's 2 minus 4? Can you do that? Can you do?
No.
Okay, so then that's where you have to borrow from the 8, right? So let's see you do that.
I did. It's 63. No, it's 80.
Well, let's see you do it.
The reward for 100% attendance, both at school and V-Team practice, is field trip eligibility. Here our kids are exposed to leisure and work environments that we hope will become part of their future.
Line up now. Okay. Everybody say thank you. Everything you need? Team set?
You bet!
All right, hop on in. All right, there we go.
A partnership with PG&E, the Greyhound Bus Line, and the Salvation Army enabled us to provide team members with transportation, lunch, and a ticket to a Barn Burner Giants game.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Here, do wave. pizza?
You bet!
Yeah, baby.
Not only do we spend a lot of time with the kids out here, we also spend time with the adults as well. Part of what we do is to mobilize the community by a series of resident patrol training classes. This will empower the community to become an active partner, taking responsibility for their community, and at the same time, they'll become more passionate about what goes on out here.
If you want to work without us and when we're not around and you don't want us here when you're working, we'll do that. If you want us to work with you when you're getting started and be in the area, particularly if you're going to work at night or on the weekends, we can make arrangements to do that. We can be in the area and be mobile in a car and out of sight. We can be in the area and walk with you. We can do it any way you guys want to do it.
I know a lot of the residents that was at first was going to start the patrol, they decided not to because they looked at it as, instead of a neighborhood watch, as resident snitches.
Right.
We are not snitches. You know, we are not snitches. They're not asking us to go and tell on our friends or anyone we know if they're doing something in their house or whatnot. If they're not involving our children, they're not doing it out visible to us. It's not our business.
The advantage we have now is that we do have the neighborhood now. We didn't a while back.
Right.
And we do have the neighborhood, and the biggest problem now is keeping them out. Now,
Just take the ball and run right now.
But this community, particularly CV, has already demonstrated that you can run with the ball. Look at the resident council,
Right.
Look at the teen groups that are going, look at the teen council, look at the sports programs, the teen center that's rolling, the computers are coming in. This is sort of the last piece.
As far as I'm concerned, you've taken the first step, and the first step is always the hardest. A lot of you probably having second guesses, and what am I doing? And walk around the community, I don't know. But I will guarantee you, once you guys get out there, and you will make a difference, you're going to have a lot of people following behind you, a lot of people joining in.
Before the officers got here, there was heavy and visible drug trafficking, guys running around with guns, stolen cars. It was just really chaotic. But now, since they're here, we can walk outside at nighttime. It's calm, it's soothing. You don't see the drug dealers as visible. You hardly even see them anymore.
It was rough over here. It was, the residents want to move out, want to transfer out of here. When the officers came here, now everything is quiet, Like everybody can walk back and forth down the street, and nobody's outside, doing anything, just kids riding a bike. But before, you cannot ride on bike here.
I think the bottom line on that is a tremendous response we get from the tenants, where the tenants themselves have come out and they seem like they like living here more. They come into the office. The kids are out playing. If you go around the project now or any time of the day or night, you'll see a just real marked difference from what it was a year ago. And I don't think there's really appropriate words to describe these guys, what they've done. They've done a tremendous job.
We hope that this partnership that we've developed with Sacramento Police Department will continue over the years. Our funding sources have been for 2 years, and we're hoping that it will be for another 2 or 3 years, because the difference that their presence has made cannot be measured. It just can't be measured in dollars and cents.
The success of any community-oriented project, the long-term success, depends on partnerships, setting up partnerships in the community.
Here we set up partnerships with the Resident Patrol, SHRA, the V Team, the police departments, POP teams, narcotics enforcement officers, self-help groups, human services, PG&E, the Salvation Army, and the Greyhound bus lines.
What we're trying to do is to bring them all together and coordinate them. We need to bring all the resources and people in the community together and get them to the point where they complement each other and empower themselves.
That's the key to community-oriented policing. We hope it gets to a point where they don't need us here anymore. A point where they take problems of their community, problems that have been here for years. They take those problems and solve them, taking back their neighborhood and making it a safer place to live.
Until then, we'll continue to form and work on partnerships with everyone that has a stake in this community.
Some say what the Mad Hatters are doing is not new, that it's been done before and it didn't work very well. The Sacramento Police Department has used beat cops often in the past when areas like New Helvetia and CV Circle were in crisis. But there is a difference today. Never before has the Sacramento Police Department set up, staffed, and supported a long-term neighborhood police station like Fort Apache. Never before have beat cops been granted the freedom to approach their neighborhood's problems in a proactive as well as a reactive way and on their own terms. And never before have ordinary beat cops been given specialized equipment and training usually reserved for elite units. That's what's different today. Cops working out of a small neighborhood office using bicycles to move silently between buildings, covering more ground faster. Cops shooting hoops, doing homework with the kids after school and taking them on trips. Cops keeping book on known neighborhood troublemakers, reacting to the weekly crews to prevent neighborhood wars. And cops sitting down with community leaders to show them how to keep their neighborhoods. And another thing different, the neighborhood crisis here has passed, but the cops are still around. How do you measure the success or failure of a neighborhood police officer program in 1993? That's easy. You just talk to the people who live there. But even if you need something more concrete, like the old calls for service statistic used by some to measure policing efforts, the Mad Hatters are doing well there too. During the month, officers Bickle and Diekman first hit the streets last year in New Helvetia and CV Circle. Calls for service there were 258. Today that number is 142, and that's a 55% reduction.